Okay, day 71, take 2. I didn't I just said, don't mind me right now. So, post-nap, come on. Hello. And so I'm excited. Today I'm actually going to talk about the 7 authorities in human design. So I am a human design reader. I also teach embodiment, and I love talking about human design. It is something that excites me a lot. And so I figured I will dive into it in this live. Thank you for all those who are joining live. Thank you. So human design has something called authority. So if you're unaware of human design, basically it is like your energetic blueprint. So it's a chart that tells you who you are. It takes your date of birth. It combines some old modalities that have been around forever, such as the chakra system, astrology, I Ching, Kabbalah, and quantum physics. And so in human design, it shows you where your authority is, which is your decision-making process. And the whole point of human design is making decisions from your authority / your intuition versus making decisions from your mind. And we are being on my spiritual journey and tapping into what's happening globally in the world of where we are going, how more and more people are tapping into their intuition and into who they truly are. We are evolving in towards a way to making less decisions from our mind and more decisions from what feels right, because our mind can create stories, create narratives that aren't always true. Our mind sometimes likes to keep us, safe in doing things that, logically are right, but maybe sometimes our intuition is guiding us towards another way that could lead to an unexpected outcome. And so if you aren't aware of your intuition, I find that human design at least gives you the clarity of where yours lies. And so you can get your chart at mybodygraph.com. Enter your birthday, your time is needed, and location. And so that's where you'll find there are 7 authorities. And so you got sacral authority, emotional authority, self-projected, ego authority, splenic, and then there is mental authority / environment, and then there's also lunar authority. And so I'm going to tap into each of these and basically kind of give you some guidance as well if you're not sure how what they mean. So I'll dive a little bit deep into it. And so we'll go with the first one, sacral authority. So sacral authority, the only types that will have a sacral authority is a generator or a mani-gen. And so sacral authority means gut response. So as you've heard of the saying, in society, everybody says, listen to your gut, listen to your gut. Mani-gens and the generators are the only ones that actually have this gut reaction. The other types don't. And sacral authority, the feeling can still feel a little bit different per individual because we are all our own human body vessel. And so some people feel an actual pang in their gut, a pang that's yes, a pang that's no. Other people feel more of a full body yes or no. And so if you have sacral authority, basically asking yourself yes or no questions is key to listening to what your gut is saying, what your sacral is saying. And so there is, sometimes it's very challenging because you may get in your mind and it might feel foggy, the answer is not clear. And so there's different ways to practice it. One would be practice with very simple yes or no questions. So if you're trying to figure out something a decision where your mind is saying one thing, but you're unable to hear what your sacral response is, start asking yourself or have someone else ask you very simple yes or no questions. And it could be as simple as, do you like hot dogs? Do you like the outdoors? Do you like to go bike riding? very simple ones that you know that your sacral will be able to answer. And listen what it says. And so you can do it by just sitting quietly and focusing in your gut area, your stomach area, and like sitting there and just paying attention to what happens there. If it helps, maybe closing your eyes and focusing in that part of your body. And so that is like a way to tap into it. Meditation also is a good way to tap into your sacral authority, because you'll be getting out. Meditation helps you get out of your mind and into your body. So you begin to understand yourself, like understand your body more and what your body is telling you. And so after you practice like a few times, like giving those very easy yes or no questions, then you can throw in the question that you do desire to figure out, which is like the tougher question, so to speak. And then you'll see what kind of answer you get. If it's still foggy, then feel free for sure to wait a bit. We are not meant to make decisions super fast all the time and be go, go, go. Like, even though I know some of you are Manny Gens that are watching this and you are very fast paced, and that's all good. But sometimes when things aren't clear, it's okay to trust and surrender and to sit back knowing that the answer will come to you when it's meant to come to you. That your sacral will give your yes or no when it is meant to. And the other thing is that even if your sacral response says yes or no to something and it doesn't logically make sense, trust it. Trust it. It's your intuition. Your intuition knows you best. So trust where it's leading you. Trust what door is going to open for you. Especially when it's a no. Whenever your sacral says no to one thing, it will open up a door to another hell yes, to something that's even better than the thing that you said no to. Even the thing that you said no to may logically not make sense. Trust me, the hell yes will get you so lit up and excited. And for generators and Manny Gens, like, since you do have that sacral authority, you are meant to do things that light you up. You are meant to do things that are full-blown hell yes. You are meant to have fun. You are meant to play. And this goes across the board with everything from the workouts you do, to the jobs you do, to the creative things you like to do, like whether it's painting or drawing. It all has to light you up. Even meditating. If meditating doesn't light you up, then that's okay. It is not the only way to, get out of your mind into your body. There's many other ways. And so trust yourself when it's a full-blown hell body yes. Because if it's a no, then that is where your not self theme of frustration will come up, and that is where you are not in alignment. So if there are certain things currently that you are doing in your life that is a full body no, or that is like a gut feeling no, maybe look into that and look how you can shift it. Look how you can change it, or look how you can actually remove it from your plate, as maybe it's not meant to be there. And so that is sacral authority. Then the next one we're going to go into is emotional authority. So emotional authority, generators, I believe, Manny Gens, projectors can have an emotional authority. I'm not sure. Most types can have an emotional authority, actually. Most types. So most types can have an emotional authority, and actually there's a huge population that does have an emotional authority as well. I believe it's very half of like people who have an emotional authority and then people who don't have an emotional authority. Very half. And so emotional authority, each emotional authority is different as well, depending on what gates and channels, basically what channels you have connected outside of your solar plexus. And so what is emotional authority? That means you have to ride the emotional wave before making a decision. Now, your emotional wave is also like your sacral response. It's also going to be different than someone else's emotional wave. And so sometimes it can take you maybe 2 hours to make a decision. Sometimes you have to sleep through the night to make a decision. And then other times it could be 2 weeks or 4 weeks. So whatever time frame it is, just trust yourself. Because usually what happens with emotional authority is that if you say yes or no to something, before you rode the emotional wave, then usually either you're not satisfied with the outcome, or you're not satisfied, you're frustrated, or the outcome isn't what you expected. Like something externally happens and it doesn't go the way you desire for it to go. There's other times, even sometimes you'll say yes and 2-3 days later you're like, shit, I should have said no. That also pops up. So with emotional authority, it is important to ride your wave, ride the highs and lows. And then when you're in a point of neutrality, you'll know it. You'll know when it feels right. Then that's where you can play around with is this something that you desire to take on? Yes or no? Depending on what other motor or what other centers you have defined in your chart. So if you are emotional authority and you're a generator or mani-gen with the defined sacral, then that is when you can tap into your sacral response after riding the wave. So you ride your emotional wave and then you tap into your gut and you're like, is this a yes or a no? If you have your heart defined and you're an emotional authority, then this is where you can ride the emotional wave and listen to what your heart is saying, whether it is a pull. The heart is more of a pull towards a yes or a no. And so monitor also, you can track and monitor your waves, your emotional waves, because of what the ones that you have is specifically yours. And so track them, see how it feels, see when you go through highs, through moments of excitement, and then see when you hit the lows, moments of depression or just a low moments, and see how that feels, of how it is to go up and down. Is it kind of skyrocket high up and then it drops down, or does it kind of go up like this slowly and then goes down? Monitor and see how your emotions go. And then this will be a good indicator for you to understand yourself even better of what is your emotional wave and when to make decisions per that wave. And so they do say that minimum for emotional authorities to sleep on it, minimum, if it is something that sometimes you do need to make a decision a lot faster. As we know, life comes up and things happen. So if there are moments where you're like, shit, I need to this is a fast decision I do need to make, trust yourself and see maybe sleeping on it and seeing what happens the next morning of how you feel in regards to that decision. I feel like that's it that I want to say. I'm just trying to think. Thinking. I think this is it. Okay. I will move on to the next one. So the next one is ego authority. So ego authority is where your heart is defined. So mostly we'll find this in manifestors and projectors. And so what does that mean is that the ego, it's from the heart, is like the sacral, but a little bit different. And it is more of a pull. It's a pull towards a yes or a pull towards a no. So again, a little bit repetitive from the sacral, but it is tapping into your body. It is tapping into what feels right for you and what doesn't feel right for you. And so meditation, as I said earlier, is one way to tap into it. Maybe closing your eyes, asking yourself yes or no questions, and seeing how that pull feels, that yes or no pull feels. And trust that. Trust where it leads you, and pay attention to it and see what happens. And so very similar to the sacral authority, if you do have an ego authority. And then after that, we got the splenic. So splenic is instant hits. So the spleen center is one of the oldest organs, which works out of basically survival and fear. And so it is the most instinctual center, and also like in all the centers in human design. And so the way the spleen speaks, it's like sudden bursts. So basically it will be like, I don't know, go for a walk. And then 2 minutes later, it'll go away. Like you won't feel it anymore. And sometimes it can come back, like the go for a walk can come back a second time and say like, oh, like, okay, go for a walk. Like, okay, it happened again, so now I should listen to it. But like if that can happen. I've heard that has happened with splenic, but usually it's like it comes in and then it goes away really quick. And so you are meant to trust that. You are meant to trust those intuitive hits, because once it goes away, that's it. Like it may come back, but sometimes it doesn't come back. And so I do know that if it's something that you get a hit and it makes you nervous and you're not sure if you should do it, and you get kind of in your head, a little trick is to write it down. Write it down and maybe look at it and think, why is that making me nervous? Like, what is the fear behind it? Because the splenic does speak in the form of fear. And so is this like just kind of learning to understand your spleen in the beginning and learning to understand what it says. And so when it speaks out of fear, what kind of fear does it speak out of? And in the beginning, if you are too afraid to take some of the actions, that's okay. Just start writing it down and start understanding it. But in further down, taking those sudden actions is what you are meant to do. That is your authority. And even when someone asks you a question of what you desire to do, your spleen will speak right away. It will. And it knows what it's talking about. And so that is the splenic center. So we did 4. After this, we're going to do self-projected. So self-projected authority is the one I have. And what it is basically speaking out loud and hearing yourself speak and tapping into your body and seeing how that feels, like usually around the chest center. So how it feels around here, hearing yourself speak, and does it resonate in this area? Also, sometimes when you speak out loud, you may say certain things that you least expected, and that is what is meant to come out and what is meant, like the decision you are meant to make. And so there are times when I've used like my authority to make a decision and I've been stuck in my head thinking, oh, okay, logically I should do this. And then I start talking out loud and then my decision completely changes and it's the exact opposite because it just doesn't feel right after I spoke out loud about it. Some tips for that is definitely have a friend or, a family member, somebody that you're extremely comfortable with, and ask them to be your soundboard. So basically, like for you to talk to them with them, not necessarily giving you advice or telling you what to do, but more for you to hear like yourself speak. If that is not an option, another thing that has helped me is recording myself. So I will put on my headphones, I'll go for a walk, pretend I'm talking on the phone, but really I'm just talking out loud and hearing myself speak. And sometimes I'll even like replay that and hear it back and listen to what it's saying. And so that is self-projected. Few tips for that. And obviously I'm more comfortable with that because that's my authority. So then after that, we got mental authority, which is also environment, and also soundboarding. So this is like primarily for projectors. And so the environment authority, what it is that your environment is really important for you. So when you're making decisions, making sure you are in the correct environment that feels right for you. If the environment doesn't feel right, then those decisions will not be aligned. They will not make a decision from an aligned point. Also, for environment authority, it is important to pay attention to your environment and see your surroundings and look at the breadcrumbs that the universe puts down along the way in your environment. And so I know, for example, in my case, if you have been watching my stories, like I kind of been posting different like nuggets that the universe has been leaving me, like the cracks that I've been seeing, like crack on my windshield, then my Vitamix blender, then a mug. And now I've seen like pineapple 3 times, and those are all signs from my environment. And in my subconscious chart of human design, I am a mental projector. So this is how my environment, but also paying attention to the breadcrumbs. Mental projectors and soundboarding is also important. This is slightly different than self-projected because soundboarding, you don't actually have like the body sensation around this part because your G center is undefined or open. And so soundboarding is basically just speaking out loud and hearing yourself speak and processing that through this area versus like feeling what it feels like around that G center. And so it is slightly similar to self-projected, but a little bit different. And so again, as self-projected, getting someone, a family member or a really good friend that you trust to be your soundboarding, or using your phone to speak out loud and hearing yourself speak and seeing, like what next steps or, what you should do, like your decision-making process from that. Then we got Lunar Authority. So that is for the reflector. So Lunar Authority is you are meant to wait a full 28 days, like a full moon cycle, 28 days to make a decision. And the reason being is because reflectors have like all their centers either open or undefined. So if you are a reflector, you don't have any defined centers. So you are taking like some like energy from the outside world and mirroring it back. And so you take in the transit. So as you are going through an entire full 28 days, each day is a different transit. Each day you're feeling something different, like of the decision. And so one day you may be excited, it may be a full-blown hell yes about the decision, and then the next day it may be a no. So that is why you're meant to wait a full 28 days to make the final decision for if you are a reflector. And so a good way for a reflector to understand the wave of, the 28 days is to follow the transit. And so you can get the transits with my body graph and genetic matrix. If this is something you desire to dive into, please send me a message and I will happily guide you through that. So you can monitor the transit and you can kind of see, like, look at it, see how you're feeling one day, look at what's happening with the transit and seeing how that is affecting you. Because if you are a reflector, you do have gates. You have gates that are like, you're not completely open. So there's some gates that you can use those gates as well to further understand yourself, who you are as a reflector. So yeah, and then I feel like there was one more. This book about sacral, emotional, splenic, ego, self-projected, soundboarding. No, I think I got them all. Rambled on, got them all. Anyways, those are like basically, that's like the basics for the human design authorities. If you have any questions, feel free to submit them in the comments. Let me know. If you like this video, please like, share, comment. I appreciate it all. And wanted to dive into that with you today to explain a little bit about the authorities. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.